Welcome back. Can victory be clearly defined by either side in the ongoing war in Gaza? Can it be achieved through military means alone? Well, on the Israeli side, it seems Israel wants to demonstrate its strength and silence Hamas rockets. Some officials have even spoken of removing Hamas from power in Gaza. All of that without making, of course, any commitment to open the border crossings. And on the other hand, Hamas might claim victory if an international resolution is issued imposing a ceasefire on both sides, with it retaining its ability to fire rockets. Well, either way, it seems politically things will never be the same again in Gaza once the dust settles. But what might a new political order look like? Well, to answer that question, we're joined once again by our guests in Jerusalem, Jonathan Spire, in Beirut, Elias Hanna, and in London, Jeremy Corbyn. And it is with Jeremy I'd like to start. Can this conflict ultimately be decided by military means, or is a political settlement inevitable at some point?
All wars have to end with some sort of political settlement and some sort of political roadmap laid out.
So what do you think then a political settlement might look like, Jeremy?
Well, I think the tragedy of the situation is that elections were held in 2005 and 2006. A president was elected, a Palestinian National Authority was elected, and Israel's response to the latter election was to arrest a large number of the Palestinian parliamentarians, 40 of whom are still held without charge or trial in Israeli jails. That doesn't show much respect for a democratic process, and that, of course, has hardened attitudes a great deal. And
but as Jonathan might say, you know, neither Israel nor some of, perhaps, assuming some of the Arab neighbours want to see what he calls an Islamist state in Gaza. Can that be changed by this war? Can a new order emerge?
No. I think any new order that's going to emerge is going to be more hostile to Israel than the present order at the present as of now, simply because of the brutality of the Israeli actions over the past few weeks and the imprisonment of the people of Gaza. But what I also detect is a growing sense of unity of Palestinians both in Gaza and on the West Bank against what Israel is doing and in support of the people of Gaza for the retaliation they're making. The Western strategy of trying to isolate Hamas and promote Fatah, trying to isolate Gaza and promote the West Bank, has resulted in this terrible conflict. 500 people are around already dead this week, and I suspect many more are tragically going to lose their lives in the next few days. What we've created is the most terrible mess. Now, a UN-imposed ceasefire would obviously be better than a continuation of a war, but there has to be some kind of longer-term political settlement. But what's also interesting is the degree of concern, unease, and indeed opposition within Israel when ordinary Israeli people see the brutality of what their army is actually doing to the people of Gaza. So I don't see any easy political solution to this, but the political ramifications across the whole region are going to be that ordinary people are going to say, well, why isn't our government doing more to protect, defend, and support the Palestinian people? And I think Mubarak in Egypt is actually quite worried by all that.
All right, let's bring in Elias. If a political settlement leaves Hamas still in power, however weakened, and if they still have some military capability left, will they be able to claim victory? And if so, what does this say about the strategy of trying to negotiate peace with Israel versus the model of resistance?
I think that Israel is fighting a new kind of war since 2006 in Lebanon, and what is Israel trying to shed, like the image of, has gone crazy, and it will destroy everything when it feel threatened. And you know that the dictum of Mao's dictum that the fish in the sea, the fish is, you know, the resistance, and the sea are the community, the population. If you cannot separate them, you destroy everything. This is the image that Israel is trying to shed. Moreover, we have to understand when we talk about Islamic statelets everywhere, that the Arab-Israeli conflict has gone from secular umbrella to the whole Islamic umbrella that is like Islamic awakening now. So now how are you going to turn it you know, for the next future, the exit strategy? Israel is trying to create a perception on the ground, taking the Rafah, the crossing border between Egypt, and destroying the tunnels for further negotiation if something will come from the United Nations Security Council. At the same time, it will not go into Gaza City because 400,000 people in Gaza City, they cannot fight an urban warfare. It's highly difficult to go inside. They need manpower. They need to destroy everything. So within this perspective, they are trying to shape or quantify a certain victory in order to give it to the political echelon. For instance, maybe it's going to be like the number of rockets fired. That's why we see that the main thrust of the northern axis is in Jabaliya, in Beit Lahiya, and in Beit Hanun. So from that area,
so
all the missiles
if I may
are
jump
fired.
in, then General Ilyas, what is the sort of new situation that may prevail after the war?
It depends on the tactical level. It depends on the outcome of the. Will Hamas be defeated militarily and say coming to the table? Israel is in lose-lose situation now because if it talks to Hamas, it will
situation. Why is it a lose-lose situation? As Jonathan says, if it manages to weaken Hamas, that's a win.
Yeah, but if it goes into Hamas and Hamas does not agree to go to the table, what they can do? What next? What is the alternative strategy? And if they go into negotiate with Hamas, they will give legitimacy to Hamas in another way. So what to do about it?
You've made a good point there. If I could jump in and let's take those to Jonathan. Jonathan, a lose-lose scenario.
Well, I think much of what I very much concur with a lot of what General Elias has been saying in terms of characterising the military aspect of what's going on the ground. I think he's very correct in this. I think it's important to see this in the longer term. I think that Israel and various other states in the region understand that we, as General Elias correctly pointed out, I think, are in a long-term battle right now with a growth of radical Islam in the region, which threatens also many Arab regimes and which also is committed to the destruction of Israel. And I think that we should see this current round of fighting against Hamas not as a war in itself, but as a single battle within that much larger campaign. This is, I think, a generational struggle. I think this is not something which is going to be decided in the next weeks in Gaza. I think that if Israel can give a setback to the Islamist forces in Gaza right now and remove some of their ability to strike at Israeli civilians, that will be regarded as an achievement. I don't think this is going to be
what sort of situation can prevail? I mean, you were talking about weakening Hamas. If Hamas is weakened, who fills that vacuum? I mean, can Mahmoud Abbas really be seen to ride into Gaza on the back of an Israeli tank? And I mean, who fills that?
I think he cannot. Yeah. I think he cannot be seen to ride into Gaza on the back of an Israeli tank. By the way, a number of Fatah people who I've spoken to in the last days, who I'm personally acquainted with, have told me behind the scenes that they're very much behind what Israel is doing. And one Fatah man was even quoted, I think by AP, as saying this is Allah's revenge on Hamas for the coup of July 2007. So I don't think that Mahmoud Abbas can come in the back of an Israeli tank. I do think that Mahmoud Abbas and his people in the West Bank are just as aware as Israel is of the dangers represented by Hamas. In terms of your question, I don't think this is going to be Hamas power being removed. I think there are limited aims to this operation. If they can result in, again, not the complete disarming of Hamas, but a significant reduction in Hamas's ability to fire rockets, and I think more importantly and less tangibly, a significant reduction in Hamas's will to fight rockets, because it will be aware that its power is seriously threatened, that its regime could be toppled if it continues to do so, then that I think would be regarded by Israel as an achievement. I don't think strategic victory is available here right now. I don't think that's what this thing is about.
All right, we have run out of time, so we're going to have to end it here. Jonathan Spire, Ilyas Hanna and Jeremy Corbyn, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Inside Story. And thank you, the viewer, for joining us here on Inside Story. As always, we welcome your comments and suggestions. Email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. For now, it's goodbye.